I feel like personally it has been very challenging for me because I joined later. On some degree, I know that Joe and Jay has some kind of stronger bonds because they've known each other for much longer, you know. So as we progress like deeper into our relationship, I started to care more about whether everything's balanced, you know. And because I'm a very very like sensitive person, so sometimes I ruminate on the details, like, oh, I noticed that they're having this conversation but they didn't really include me as much on the group chat, or they're discussing about what to eat but they didn't really ask me, they just made the decision. So sometimes they didn't really mean that, you know, and they've tried very hard to reassure me. I guess it's due to my personality too, so it's hard for me to convince myself that like everything's perfectly equal. But eventually I learned how to like just not overthink about it and just live in the moment and accept that they love me.
Literally Gasian.
Literally Gasian. Welcome to Literally Gasians, a podcast where two gay Asian guys get real about their feelings and literally Gasian stuff. I'm Chris, and this is Living in My Top Era, Bow.
How dare you? There was actually like a couple of people who like messaged me after listening to that last episode to ask me to add them to like the two top list for me.
Is it just one long? Just like one list, just number one.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about Thruples.
Oh my god. Just 2 weeks after all the poly folks on TikTok came for us.
Okay, why did they come for us so hard? That is so typical of poly people, right? When single people are just trying to live their lives, share their experiences, poly folks have to take that and like make it about them.
Okay, after that episode, I was actually kind of gagged when you told me that the next episode we're going to interview a Gasian throuple.
I think it's something that a lot of people have asked us to talk about. I met them at a party last year and they pitched themselves as like someone who would be willing to talk about it. There's a lot of myths and mysteries that they want to dispel. And so that's what we're going to do in the episode. We're going to get into how they formed their relationship, some of the funny things they've experienced together, and then like a lot of the annoying things that people say about them. People like us when we were on TikTok last week.
The haters.
Such haters.
Not haters. We're lovers that observe things.
Exactly.
But first, we should do a little shout out to our paying Patreon subscribers.
Yes. If you want to support us on our quest to just break even as amateur podcasters, subscribe to our Patreon. And what we're going to do now is talk about the people who subscribe to our Patreon with a paying membership.
Instead of actually doing shout outs, we're going to do Patreon shade. Well, we just have a few things to share about you, whether they're true or not.
Yes,
Maybe what kind of Asian you are.
We're just going to read you.
First off is Ludicrous Cow. This is totally your DJ name that you took on during lockdown because everyone became a DJ during lockdown.
Like you?
Yes. And also, you're really bad at it, but your
Like
friends
you?
don't have the heart to tell you. Well, apparently, all my friends do have the heart to tell me.
Ludicrous Cow paid for the full year, so thank you. And someone else who also paid for the full year ahead is Clark H. You're one of those fancy Gasians. The fancy Gasians who have a huge Louis Vuitton duffel bag that they travel with and have no idea why, because it just gets really dirty when you travel with it. The only sushi you eat is omakase. And you think planning your milestone birthday with an African safari is an affordable choice for all your friends at different income levels. So that is who you are, Clark.
My God. Next up, full year. Also, Peter. Peter, you just have Gasian EDC face. I just know it. You're probably making candy bracelets for EDC right now. It's only 2 weeks away. You've got like the Pokemon one. You've got the little ones that say Rave Baby and Rave Daddy, depending on who you're talking to give out.
You've used Gasian EDC face before, so I think maybe this should just be a recurring theme that you have to name someone a Gasian EDC face.
Because we know so many. We do. So
next is David W. You're one of those alt Asians. So like the Gaysian who just like sees how every Gaysian person acts or looks and does the complete opposite of it. You're just super contrarian and grungy, and that's like your entire personality. So like you only thrift your clothes, one. You post your bad art on Instagram that no one cares about, too. You like smoke actual cigarettes, unironically. But like in reality, you drive a Tesla and actually work at Google. That's what
Thomas, you're probably one of those boba tea Gaysians that's an Instagram post of every boba drink you've ever had for the past 3 years.
Entire
and you send
personality.
IG messages to your of those drinks to your friends, and they don't even comment back with emojis anymore.
All right, the next is Kevin. You're one of those hot but like relatably nerdy Gaysians. So you have to spend half of your time looking for a third for you and your husband, and the other half you find scouring the world for Pokemon on Pokemon Go.
I've met those. Alex, he's a social justice warrior Gaysian that reminds me every day that he's a vegan and that I should be a vegan too.
How dare you? That was a dig at me. Our last one is Helen. You're not a Gaysian, but you're a dragon fruit fly. That means you're that one cis woman with every group of Gaysians at the club. Your sole purpose in life is to feed everyone K with your one really long pinky nail that's manicured. And you're so proud of it, and it's become like a legend, and it's become your entire personality. And then you hang out with Gaysians so much that you actually haven't talked to a man who's interested in women in about 3 years. And that's
That sounds like me.
that sounds like a lot of my girlfriends, so we love you. Thanks for the K.
And a huge thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. And if you're listening and haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for?
Yes, go to our patreon.com/literallygaysians and pay for a subscription. All right, shall we meet our throuple?
So that I can continue to embarrass myself? Sure.
All right, let's get the show started. All right, hi guys. Hi. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Why don't we start with introducing yourselves by introducing your name and when you came out.
My name is Joe. I came out at 15 years old.
Ooh.
So during the early stages of high school, actually.
Hi, my name is Alfred. I'm from Taipei, Taiwan, and I came to the U.S. in 2018 for school, and I came out when I was around 18 to my parents.
Hi, my name is Jay. I'm also from Taiwan. I think I started to realize I might like boys in the high school years, but officially kind of like identify as gay is probably freshman year of college.
Yeah, wait, so then how old are you guys, each of you? If you guys don't mind me asking. We can cut it out.
It's okay. I am
Okay.
31, turning 32 right now.
I'm
Nice.
30, turning 31 this year.
I am 29, turning 30.
Oh, you're all age appropriately dating. I don't know what that's like.
We are like a full like preteen older than you guys, I feel like.
Yeah, I could have had a child. You could be my
Really?
children almost. Okay. No.
Could you? Could they?
No.
Maybe Joe.
Maybe Joe.
You were like a teenage father.
Y'all from like kind of different backgrounds. How did you meet? What's your meet cute story?
I met Joe and Jay at a house party that happened towards the end of COVID. I mean, I went to that party and I didn't really know many people there. And I remember I was like standing by the kitchen by myself. Joe saw me and he came to me because he probably thought I was like alone and I didn't have anyone to talk to. So he was being very friendly. Yeah, and then we just started chatting. And it's funny because we were talking about very serious topics like psychology, like some very deep art related things that people wouldn't usually talk about at a party. And it's also the place I met Jay because he introduced Jay to me later that night.
Joe and Jay, you guys were dating at the time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
me and
we
Jay
were
were
already
dating.
dating.
I met Jay at a friend's house, and he was quite quiet. So I was like, "Oh, okay. So it's just another person that my friend invited." So we started hanging out more often, and then I was like, "Huh, Jay's actually really cute." And then it wasn't until like later on we went to a retreat. I was like, I think I might actually want to have more one-on-ones with him. After a while, I asked Jay to like more singular hangouts, and eventually we started dating. And yeah, I actually asked him if he wanted to date before he went back to Before he Actually, after he came back from Taiwan.
And how long were you both dating before you met Alfred?
I think about a year, slightly more than a year. I think a year-ish.
Yeah, and after they met me, we didn't like immediately started dating. We were friends for around like 6 to 8 months, and I started having like more feelings for them. So I started to ask them like whether this is like a possible direction that we can start going to.
Oh, look at you. Wait, so then since you brought it up, Alfred, was Joe and Jay, did you like think about that also, or was that a surprise to you?
Alfred actually approached us separately.
He actually approached you first.
Oh, okay.
He asked you,
Oh.
and then when you were away in Taiwan, he asked me. So I was so like bamboozled by this. I was like, whoa, where did this come from? It just came out of the blue because Alfred was like, so me and Jay were talking, and I was like, you and Jay were talking, and he was like, and we think that it'd be great to be a throuple, but we want to hear what you have to say because you have the final say whether or not you want to try it out. And I'm like thinking, I never been in a throuple before. I'm like, how will this work? So I asked Alfred. I was like, who thought of this idea? And then he said, oh, Jay. Actually, it was
What?
both me and Jay.
So I actually didn't
Wait,
have the
sure.
courage to ask Jay until like New Year. Like I remember it was during New Year's Eve. Like we were kind of, and I was like, "Hey, so have you ever thought about getting together, like getting one step closer?" And then Jay was like, "Oh yeah, like I thought, like I think it would be nice." So that kind of became a momentum for me to start testing things out and asking Joe too later.
Alfred and Jay, is this your first throuple too, or have you been in throuples before?
And the first Throuples as well.
First one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the first one for all of you.
I find that like the story very cute and refreshing because it's so different than how I jokingly in my head always imagine like a couple on the prowl always looking for their third. How we've joked about in the past about like it's always like this
Yeah.
pair just lurking a party, just like oh look at that one. He's our next prey.
I know they circle the third. They like circle the third.
which happens. You were approached. How'd the conversation go between the three of you? What did you think of Alfred approaching you both separately? Did it seem like, oh, he's being sneaky? Or like what was that first call between you two about the topic?
I called Jay after I dropped off Alfred, and he actually popped this question when I was dropping him off home. I live in all the way in Pomona at the time, and I was dropping him off home all the way in Riverside. So I called up Jay while he was in
Wow.
Taiwan. I was like, "So Jay, Alfred asked me a very interesting question," and and then Jay's like, yes." So the whole conversation between me and Jay, we're all talking about evaluating our feelings, and we were talking about essentially like, do we think we could handle a third? Because I know that like we both never been in a throuple, and I wasn't sure if we could. And then Jay said, "Do you want?" Jay was like, "Well, I'm willing to try. How about you?" I was like, and I said, "Okay, I guess we could try." So we end up accepting Alfred into our relationship, and that's how the story began with us.
Alfred, your application was accepted. Congratulations.
Yeah.
After
Admission
tier 4
letter.
examination.
When did you all get together and be like, yeah, agree? We're all agreeing to be a throuple. Was it like, did you sign papers? Did you?
You sit down in a room together, or
I think there was a
or-
call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought like there wasn't really a time that we actually sat down, the three of us, and talk about it. It was more like, I don't know, I asked Jay first, and I confirmed with Joe. And I remember when I confirmed with Joe, Jay was like in Taiwan. So Joe, we had like, I had dinner with Joe's friend, and he was driving me back or something, and then he's just talking about how all his friends are asking. and he's thinking, so am I a throuple? And I just asked him like, well, does that mean like we're gonna be a throuple? And he said, I guess. So
I like how it kind of just sort of formed and not like this like epiphany moment, kind of like just almost casually came together because you both, all three of you, appreciated each other's time with each other.
So, but before you guys were a throuple, or this even became a remote possibility in your life, what did you actually think of thruples? Like, what was your idea or like opinion of thruples before you decided to form one?
I only heard about this term, I think, starting maybe 3 years back. Just a neutral idea for me. When Alfred come to us, it just kind of naturally happened, and I was like, oh, doesn't hurt to give it a try.
I never really thought much of thruples. It was still a new thing that was going on. I essentially thought that it was just a couple that were relatively bored, like you said earlier, or it was essentially something along the lines of one of the partners is interested in another person. But I later found out that was actually called a V instead of an actual throuple.
Oh, okay.
What's a V?
A V is essentially just a relationship where one person in the relationship is dating two people at once, while in an actual formal relationship. So it'll look like a V. So one person with two other people, but the latter aren't dating each other.
I've never heard that before. Have you heard that, don't you?
I've never heard the term, but I think it's like more of like a, might have heard of as like a polyamorous like
Relationship, yeah.
yeah, where there's like not a like a primary person, and then like they have their like separate people who don't interact with each other. But then the throuple being everyone, I guess that's kind of goes back. I guess that's how you define a throuple more. Everyone's interacting with each other.
See, these are the type of things that are like so fascinating to me, because I think a lot of people, before you, Joe, and Jay hopped on, we're talking to Alfred, and we're like, we've gotten the request to do this topic a lot, because I think a lot of people are curious about how a throuple works. Mm-hmm. In addition to, we were at a party and Joe pitched like the idea of like interviewing you guys at the party, and I was like, oh my god, perfect. We found one, like a couple, like a throuple who would really want to do this. So there's a lot of mystery to it that I think a lot of people have questions they're not comfortable asking. So I want to talk about like the mechanics of your throuple.
Like, who's in your lives that are close to y'all knows that you're in a throuple? Almost like you're being out to them about it being a throuple. Like parents, coworkers. Like, who do you tell? Who do you decide to tell?
So with me, my boss knows, and all my friends know.
some of my close friends, because I didn't really explicitly like announce that I'm being a throuple. So some of my close friends in Taiwan and here knows, and I actually told my parents too, because I've always been very close to my parents, and they've met all my previous partners. So I told them last summer when I went back to Taiwan, and they said that they kind of knew already because I've been posting about Joe and Jay a lot, and we appear together a lot on Instagram, so they weren't really too surprised. But they're pretty cool about it, so yeah, I feel very lucky.
Amazing.
Yeah, his mom is on his Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, and my parents actually met them because we all went to
wow.
Taiwan together,
We
and we
actually
had
had
like
dinner,
we had dinner. Yeah.
That's so nice.
That was actually something I wanted to like ask about. Like, how do you talk about to your parents, and during a holiday, does everybody come? Does only one person come?
Well, for me, I haven't told my parents, but Jay and Alfred, they both live in Taiwan. But
Yeah,
you
my
were saying Alfred.
family are all in Taiwan, yeah.
Wait, how long have you guys been been together?
Over a year.
I think maybe a year and a
Around
half.
1 year and 3 months.
Maybe like a logistical question. Like you each don't live together. You guys live in different. So Alfred, you're in Riverside. Jay, you're in Irvine, I think.
Yeah.
And then Joe, you're in, where are you, Joe?
LA.
Do you guys
Irvine,
ever
yeah.
sleep together in the same bed?
All the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
so you,
Yeah.
you make the drive. Okay.
How do you use the same blanket or different blankets? This sounds so like anthropological.
So we normally just use one blanket. It's
Oh.
kind of actually an interesting dynamic. So Jay and Alfred, their bodies are like radiators, so I get really hot. So I prefer to use less blanket. Jay likes to wrap himself like a burrito, And Alfred likes to sleep practically naked, so he's good on body heat. I literally have to sleep next to the window or somewhere where it's less blanket. We just fight
Yeah.
over pillows, that's it.
I remember towards the beginning of the relationship, I tend to sleep in the middle more. As the time progress, I just feel like I want to sleep on the edge, so I can like go to the bathroom more easily in the middle of the night.
Bathroom?
Yeah, I think that's
Are you sure?
You're an aisle seat person like me on the plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering this about this a lot because I started dating somebody and I finally like decided like, okay, fine, I'll stay over, and the whole time I was worried about like farting, which will get comfortable soon. But like, so the whole night I couldn't sleep because I thought I might like fart. It's so bad. It's so stupid.
Well, if they like you
Aw.
enough, they'll think your fart is cute.
I know he better. He better. And I probably did. Honestly, I probably did. That's mortifying, but he probably did.
You're all together. How do you like, what do you do to spend time with each other? Like, do you do a lot of, like, pairs off? Or do you do a lot of, all three of you together a lot? How do you divide and conquer that time management?
Actually, we have. So we usually discuss if we only mostly see each other during the weekends, and most of the time we had to see if our schedule aligned. For example, Alfred would be like, I don't think I can hang out this week because I have midterms, or I'm really busy this week, and so I think I'm gonna stay in and study. So me and Jay would just hang out, or it'll come down to Jay saying that I'm actually just gonna stay in and catch up on chores. So me and Alfred would hang out. Or it'll be with me saying, I'm actually called into work, so I can't hang out, and I'll be gone. And it'll be things like that. There are times where me and Jay will be hanging out without Alfred, or we'll all hang out together. And we still, like, if Alfred's like out of state or out of the country, we'll still video chat with him through IG. Same thing applies to me or Jay.
Yeah.
So there's like this clear understanding that it's okay, and like, not that has to always be equal time with each person or anything. You're all like, you just like have got past that.
Yeah. For me personally, if I can't make it, I encourage Alfred and Jay to spend time with each other and be like, it'll be a cute single date.
Single day.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, single date.
Single day.
Like just you two spending time together. And you're both Taiwanese in your Taiwanese fashion.
I think the flow was going on pretty nicely since the beginning of the relationship. Like there wasn't any rules about who can hang out with who at what time. There wasn't any explicit rules because we were just very used to hanging out together every weekend already. So it was pretty balanced.
I will have to say it's probably due to mostly Jay's personality.
Huh? Why?
Because Jay's personality is very chill, and he's very like go with the flow kind of person. So he doesn't have the jealous personality. So he'll just like, okay.
If Jay is the chill one without the jealousy vibes, do you, Joe, or Alfred have more of that?
I tend to
Jealousy
have. I tend to be more emotional, and I tend to be the jealous type. Yeah. Okay, so I'm like an overthinker. I ruminate a lot on things.
Same.
Yeah, and I tend to, I don't know, when I get stuck in an emotion or a thought, it's very hard for me to get out of it. So I tend to be the one, and I have to say, like, I've always been the more conservative person in the relationship. I used to hate this kind of relationship when I heard about it because I thought it's just kind of like irresponsible to do that. It just shows that you don't love the other person, you know. So it was rather a really close-minded and conservative opinion. But I feel like after I came to the U.S., I became much more open-minded. Like Joe always tells me that I need to kind of let go of my opinionated mind and try to observe things more objectively. I changed a lot after I joined this relationship.
We did not force him. I just want to make it clear.
Alfred
Yeah,
approached
I think
you.
when I
guys.
first heard about this and when he was telling the story, I thought it was all your idea, Joe. It's like, oh, he's the instigator. It's for
Yeah,
all of us.
everyone thinks it's my idea. Everyone thinks that I started this, when in actuality it was Alfred's.
Yeah.
Maybe on the similar vein to the last question, do you have different ways of showing or receiving affection and love?
I can talk about my Joe and myself. I guess Joe's way of showing love is that he would like make food for us. He's pretty good at cooking, making desserts.
Another signature way of showing affection for Joe is biting people.
Oh my god.
That's true.
Okay.
That's very true. Yeah.
Okay.
It's playful bites, okay? Playful bites.
But that's not exclusive to us.
Playful.
That if you meet him at a club, he'll also bite you.
No.
Oh. Biting his way all through GPS. I see.
Basically.
He likes to leave marks on people.
Oh.
We're one of those.
Okay, now you're making me sound scary. Okay, Jay, continue on your answer, please.
No, I was gonna say for me, I think I like to like make plans, like to go on a trip together or like, go to somewhere together. Just like make plans.
I guess my way of showing affection is just like chatting with you very often, or I don't know. I like to plan things too. I like to plan things ahead. If I really care about you, I would ask about like, hey, how are we gonna celebrate our birthday this year? And physically, maybe just like cuddling, a lot of body contact. I really care about those kind of physical touch.
For me, I guess I do a lot of active service, so I will, like Jay said, I will just cook for Jay and Alfred. Whatever Jay or Alfred want, I'll ask them, what do you want? Or I'll make a dessert, and I'll just save a few slices for Jay and Alfred, because I know they're coming by. And then,
Oh.
and every time Jay's drunk, he will always want soup. So I would actually have to make soup at 3 or 4 in the morning. But I do realize one thing though. Since Jay and Alfred are two different people, they both like to receive two different things. So with Jay, he likes more acts of service, and with Alfred, he likes more words of affirmation and physical touch. So I try to give them what they want, what they both want, because at the beginning of the relationship, I was still navigating my newfound relationship with Alfred and being in this throuple, and we did have some discussions on why Alfred wasn't happy or at some one point. So it turns out he needed more physical attention, because it made me realize I was treating Alfred the same way I was treating Jay, where it was just more active service and words of affirmation, whereas Alfred is more geared towards physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation.
I think what I've discovered myself is I think I'm an overthinker. Overthinkers need physical touch to get out of their heads. When I'm cuddling, then I will tell you everything I feel, because I feel the connection and I'm out of my head and into my body and feeling safe that way. And then words of affirmation too. It just helps to hear, hey, I don't think that, or like, hey, I value you, I see you, for me to get out of my head about whatever stupid thing I'm thinking about myself. And especially on text, like sometimes I have to screenshot it to remember like that is reality. So whenever I spiral about something, I look back at the text to remember like, okay, like that helps just like, take me out of my overthinking and be into like, remember that he likes you. It's fine.
We've talked about like how nice it is, which is great. So happy for you. I'm just bitter. But I guess the flip side of it is maybe unique to y'all. How do you handle disagreements? Or are you one of those annoying like people that don't ever fight?
No, we fight. We fight.
Yeah.
We fight. Yeah. We both gang up on Alfred. No, I'm kidding.
I love that.
So I would say that Jay's the kind of person who's more chill and more rational because of his personality. And me and Joe's personality are relatively more similar. We're both like very creative and emotional people. Like there are some fundamental differences between us about how we treat the idea of open relationship and things like topics like that. So there was a time when Joe and I had more conflicts with each other. When that happens, I mean, it was very challenging for a while, but eventually we kind of adapted to each other, and we we're more clear about how we should communicate with each other and how to respect each other's boundaries.
To add on to that, at the beginning of or a little further, like later in the months of the relationship, Alfred, when we started going out as an official throuple and going out to like parties and such, Alfred was very, I guess you could say he was kind of self-conscious and jealous of anybody who would try to approach me or talk to me or try to like get to know me as such, whether if it's new people or people I don't relatively hang out with or know. And it got into that to the point where it would affect his mood. And so that would lead to a lot of arguments. It will lead to him saying, "Why are you adding this guy on Instagram?" or "Why didn't you introduce me to so and so?" And these are things that I'm just like, I didn't know you didn't like that, or relatively like I didn't think you even cared. So we had a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments based on that. But the more we talked about it, and the more I started to realize how to essentially work things out with him, and constantly reassured him that I'm not leaving you, Jay isn't leaving you, we're in this relationship because we like you. And even Jay also had to talk Alfred into stating that like it doesn't matter if Joe dances with whomever or if someone tries to dance with Joe, by the end of the day Joe is going to come back to us. It took a lot of trial and error to get how to navigate through this whole throuple relationship in order to understand that we can learn from one another, especially learning me. As for me, I learned to be more communicative as well as patient with Alfred, and I have to do a lot of reassurance to make sure that he doesn't spiral down and overthink, like he mentioned earlier.
And very often, like Jay is the mediator, because he's more calm. He's able to see things more clearly when we are having, like when we are in heat and like arguing with each other. So, one thing that Joe told me too was that like we have to take Jay into consideration. Like this is not fair to him that we're fighting all the time. Like he's being stuck in the middle, and that's not fair to him. And I guess that's one of the things that we kind of agreed on, like not to just dump the emotions and take Jay's presence for granted,
Meanwhile, Jay's on the side with a popcorn bucket going, "This is so interesting."
I love the drama.
No, just kidding.
I knew it.
It was actually very difficult to be the mediator, I guess, because I cannot pick a side, because both are my
He was
girlfriend.
very neutral.
Yeah, so I have to be like rational, try to convince them don't do something stupid in the peak of emotion.
I mean, isn't that kind of part of like being in a throuple, not trying not to pick sides? Sometimes you might feel it, or maybe you're just better than me.
No, with Jay's really good at this because he would actually call out on both me or Alfred's BS, and he's not afraid to. So that's really good on Jay. He is practically the most level-headed out of the three of us.
What's like the best part about being in a throuple?
I think a really good part of the throuple is that it balanced out in many aspects, I guess. Before, it was only me and Joe, and certain things we can talk about because we relate, and certain things we cannot. But then it's really good to see Joe can talk about, for example, like psychology. He can talk about a lot of psychology things with Alfred because they have the same background. I can talk about like Taiwan stuff or like gym stuff, or just Instagram hot guy with Alfred. It's something I usually don't talk about with Joe. Yeah, it's just nice that it has a very like a balanced dynamic.
There's like different combinations of chemistry that can be catalyzed, like with different pairs and like the three of us at the same time. And I think like each of us contribute uniquely to this relationship in terms of what we can bring to the table. Like I'm like the more, I don't know, sometimes I'm the more scholar-oriented person. Like I like to talk about deep topics. Joe, I see you making that expression, but
Joe, what do you
Yeah,
have to say?
I'll reserve any comments later.
okay. I mean, like sometimes I like to think about something deeper. The meanings behind a lot of like more philosophical things. And like Joe is like a very very artistic person, and he loves to cook. So those are like topics he's very familiar with. And for example, Jay is very very cute and like unexpected. He never fails to surprise the both of us with his like cuteness and his ways of yeah.
In addition to the fun, then, this is like the flip side of that question. What's the hardest part about being in a throuple?
Well, I guess inherently, just like any other group, like a group of people, it's really hard sometimes to make everybody happy. Yes, small things like which restaurant to go to, what should we do during the weekend, to like bigger things like if we want to open a relationship or not. Just things like that. It just takes a lot of communication to like reach, I guess you can call it a consensus. The harder part, kind of like what Joe was mentioning earlier, is to like know what each of us actually need in this relationship, and then make nobody feel left out. And because me and Joe dated for like a year-ish before Alfred adding in, and it took us quite a while to make sure Alfred understand that you are like a third of this relationship. You're not just like the plus one.
I feel like personally it has been very challenging for me because I joined later. On some degree, I know that Joe and Jay has some kind of stronger bonds because they've known each other for much longer, So as we progress like deeper into our relationship, I started to care more about whether everything's balanced, And because I'm a very, very like sensitive person, so sometimes I ruminate on the details. Like, oh, I noticed that they're having this conversation, but they didn't really include me as much on the group chat, or they're discussing about what to eat, but they didn't really ask me. They just made the decision. So sometimes they didn't really mean that, and they've tried very hard to reassure me. I guess it's due to my personality too. So it's hard for me to convince myself that like everything's perfectly equal. But eventually I learned how to like just not overthink about it and just live in the moment and accept that they love me.
You did have to think about compromise more. Do you think that you have to live in more compromise than, say, if you were in a two-person relationship? Like, you're thinking about two more people all the time.
Yes, I would say there has to be more compromise because you are dealing with two personnels. However, the way I see it is that we still want the opinion of the other party. Or, for example, if me and Alfred were planning on something, we still want Jay's opinion on this. Usually he'll be okay with it, or he'll actually suggest something else. And with us, me and Jay, when we plan something and we present it to group chats, sometimes Alfred just leaves it on red and forgets about it, but that's a different story. But we still value Alfred's opinion. Most of the time, he's very also neutral about it. But one of the issues we do have is picking a restaurant because we both are so chill. We're like, I don't mind, I don't care. Yeah. We're like that's a typical relationship, though. Everyone, you're saying that. What do you want to eat? I don't know. I don't care.
It sounds like the worst nightmare. 3 people who are saying they don't care about which restaurant to go to.
If 2 people are already hard enough, then.
What would you say is the most misunderstood thing about a throuple, or maybe just like even your throuple that people might say or ask of you?
People think I instigated this. No, I'm kidding. So one of the things that people would constantly ask is, who's your favorite? Or be like, you favor one person more than the other. That's not necessarily the case because, obviously, I try to show them that like I do love both Alfred and Jay equally. Although I know Jay longer than Alfred, that's an issue that can't be avoided. However, I try my best to essentially show equal love to both of them. and care about them equally. Like if they're always saying that they're always saying like, oh, you have to choose one, and I just stand my ground and just say I like them both equally.
I mean, that's why you're in this relationship. I feel like
Exactly.
it's a common question to ask any like polycule that, and it feels kind of, it's just like a lame go-to question.
Whenever somebody asks that, I always question about the intention behind that question. So like, what are you planning to do after you figure out the answer? If the person does say, "Oh, I love this person more," so what's the point of knowing this kind of information? But it's just me. Yeah.
So then, what would you each say would you want others to stop saying about thruples? Like, what bothers you when people talk about it?
I think it's the idea that they think that we're just bored and that's why we add a third.
Or like people have been jokingly asked Joe like, "Oh, so when are you getting the fourth in this relationship?"
Oh yeah.
So it makes it sounds like being a throuple is like it can just happen overnight. It's just like, "Oh, today I'm bored, I'll get a new one." But it doesn't really work that way. If it does, it's less likely going to work out well if you think this kind of things can happen just overnight.
Yeah, it's more organic, right? It's more organic. It took time, just from your stories, for
Yeah,
these bonds to form.
What about you, Jay? Anything that bothers you, or that about what people say about thruples or your
Honestly,
relationship?
Yeah, honestly, not much. I'm usually
chill
very unbothered by whatever other people say.
You know how like an atom can hold like electrons together? I always use that analogy. J is kind of like the core kind of holding two unstable electrons together. That's how this thing forms stably.
Okay.
I see that. I like that analogy.
It's pretty nice. Yeah.
You are a professor.
Ouch. Okay, yeah.
Oh, it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying like Joe and I are more
Unstable.
unstable.
So now we're just gonna play a cute little game to kind of send us off. It's like one of those like couple dating game show games. We're just gonna ask you a question, and you guys have to each pick one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Sounds easy.
okay, first one. Who's the messiest?
Joe.
I love that Joe's face like scrunched up.
Ask Joe to turn off the background right now.
No. No. My cat threw up, so I had to clean that.
So it sounds like people don't spend time at Joe's house. I get it. All right.
No, they do.
Not in Joe's room.
Yeah.
You sleep in my room, excuse you.
I mean, other people, other than us.
No, my room's small.
All right. Who's the chattiest?
Probably still Joe.
Yeah, probably Joe.
Who's
He's just
the
very extroverted, so yeah.
Okay. Who's the shyest?
Alfred.
Me.
Maybe.
Okay.
Oh.
I think I know this answer, or maybe I don't know this answer. Who's the most emotional?
Alfred.
Alfred.
Yeah, I would say it's me. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not gonna deny that. Yeah.
Who's the angriest?
Me.
Alfred.
Alfred. Yeah.
Who's the funniest?
Is it Joe?
Okay.
Oh, disagreement here. I love this.
Okay, Alfred, you're the tiebreaker. Me or Jay?
I feel like I'll go with Jay because sometimes it's so unexpected. So it's like
That's what I think.
just makes me
Okay, one more. Who's the horniest?
Joe.
Alfred.
Joe. 100%.
What the?
And with that awkward question, this is the end. So Joe, Jay, Alfred, thank you so much for being on the podcast to talk about your love for each other and dispel all the myths, all the mysteries about thruples. So thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
So,
Yeah.
So, if people want to follow you and your love for one ho, where can they follow you on your socials?
They can follow me
Instagram.
at Instagram. So mine is js.snng.
mine is blue, like the color blue, and then other line Alfred, and then K.
Mine is just jyoung1019.
And you can follow us, me and Chris, at Literally Asians on TikTok, Instagram, and now Patreon. So remember to subscribe to our Patreon with a paid subscription.
Until next time, until my next bitter commentary. Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.